Welcome to this video where the topic is how to complete a child maintenance application form. This video will be very useful for someone who wants to claim maintenance from the other parent of a child, but that specific parent does not want to pay child maintenance. Or alternatively, that parent does not want to pay adequate child maintenance, or the child maintenance which you feel would be fair under the circumstances. In order for you to claim child maintenance, you obviously need to be the parent or guardian of the minor child. That's firstly. And secondly, there must be a need for child maintenance to be claimed. For example, if the minor child does not require any maintenance, and it's theoretically possible, or the minor child requires a small amount of maintenance, then your claim should be relevant to that specific amount the minor child requires. So if the child already has a bursary for school fees, or the child does not require, for example, diapers, milk, and so on, you can't put a claim for those specific expenditure. But obviously, if the minor child require aspects, for example, school fees, medical expenditure, day-to-day expenditure, food, and so on, you have a right to claim those specific expenses for the minor child. What I'm trying to bring across is when you're applying for child maintenance for a minor child, make sure that you have a case because we all want you to be successful in the process of claiming child maintenance. But at the same time, the law does not specifically stipulate how much child maintenance a parent should be able to claim. For example, one parent may claim X amount of money from the other parent, and a different parent might claim much more or much less, depending upon the circumstances of the parties and the needs of the minor child. But at the same time, the law does not expect a parent to pay any amount more than he or she should, for argument's sake. You, as a parent who cares for the minor child, should not spend 100% of your income on the minor child, and the other parent who is supposed to pay the child maintenance only pays a small amount of child maintenance. That is also unfair. So the court and the law looks at what's fair under the circumstances, what's fair upon you and what's fair upon the other parent. Now that we have passed that specific issue, the first question will be, where do I apply for child maintenance? And the answer is quite simple. You apply at the maintenance court, and that you might know by now. You go to the maintenance court and you complete a form, and that form I have now prepared for you online. Sorry, I downloaded it online. And where did I find that specific form? https://www.justice.gov.za/forms/maintenance/mtn_forms. I think there's a gap there, 20A. Now that's where you can find it. Google that more or less. I'm certain you will find it and you'll be able to download that specific form. Now, the form in front of me, as I mentioned earlier on, is a form I have downloaded, and I have completed that specific form as well. You can see here in front of you on the screen, I've completed some information, and I provided some fictitious information to the specific person. I called the specific person the applicant or the mother. I called her Kate Warrington, and she lives in number 1 Cape Road. I do not think that is a road in Cape Town, but be that as may, I've included that. I've provided her work details, telephone number for her home, and for her work as well. So that's what is required. The form further requires your nearest police station. I said Cape Town. Now that's where your details comes in, the applicant or the parent claiming child maintenance for your minor child. Then going further, we require the details of the other parent, in this case the father, I gave him the name Mark Wellington. I do not know if there is a Mark Wellington out there, but hopefully, if there is one, his ID number is not as I presented it here. I provided a telephone number for his work and for his home, or maybe cell number. Nearest police station, Cape Town. Okay. Then the question gets posed on this form: why is this person legally liable to care for the child? Okay, let me say, you saying basically this person is legally liable to maintain, and let's go for example, you say me as well, because you require sorry, you require maintenance as well for yourself and the following children. So we can maybe underline that to do something there. And then why should he pay something towards you? Because you are married, and let's say you are now unemployed, and you guys have separated, and he used to pay you money every month, or care for you, or provided you accommodation, and so on. And then why should he pay towards the kids, or why should you be able to claim for these kids? Because you are the biological mother of these specific children. So you have to include that. So the court will understand what the issues are that the court will have to deal with. So in this example, you are claiming personal maintenance for yourself because your husband is no longer caring for you, you left the home, and you want money as well for the minor children. So let's go on. When should it be paid? And in this example, we say April 2025. Okay, that was last month, if I'm right. And then we go further. What are you claiming for yourself? You want an amount of 5,000 rand for yourself. Okay, and for the kids, there are two kids, Tammy Wellington and Johnny Wellington, all fictitious names, and the amounts you want to claim from them, and these are the dates of birth, all fictitious. And when do you want the first payment to take place? Immediately, I would assume so. And then thereafter on or before the first day of each month. What happened there? Okay, so that's where we are now. And into whose banking account? Into your banking account. And maybe you should provide some banking details over there as well. Usually, when the court order is made, the court would look at this form and provide and take the banking details therefrom. If your banking detail changes in the interim, please provide the court with the correct banking details. Now, this is a very interesting part of the form, and many people do not understand what it entails. The amounts we dealt with early on were the amounts or the items you want the other party to pay going forward. But what else can we claim? We can also claim medical aid, daycare expenditure, school fees, and so on. You can see it over here as well, what I'm underlining. Oops, my apologies for that. Dental costs, school fees, tertiary education, schoolwear, and so on. This is the important part, the interesting part over here, birth expenses and maintenance for the children from birth. So, for example, let's say the children are quite young and the other parent has not paid much or anything towards the child since birth or towards the birthing expenditure. It's possible for you to claim birthing expenditure or maintenance since birth. So, for argument's sake, let's say you would have required an amount of 2,000 rand per month since birth for the minor child or the minor children, and it's now 2 years later. So that's 24,000 rand a month. So that will be 48,000 rand for the last 2 years. And you can put in a claim for that as well. Please consider that as well, because many people do not know they can do that. Claim backwardly. It's not arrears because there's no order specifically um, ordering the party to pay maintenance. It's obviously something that you have to look at and discuss it with the maintenance officer. And number 5, particulars of my assets, monthly income, or expenses, supported by documentary proof where possible. Okay. This is a challenging part to complete because, number one, I would say this form is a bit outdated. And secondly, people seem to incorrectly complete it for various reasons. I'll use a simple example. The party might be earning, let's say, in this case, 5,000 rand per month. But when you work out the expenditures of the specific person, the amount totals to about 30 or 40,000 rand per month, which doesn't make logical sense to me at all. They maybe, for argument's sake, they might have an expense that they incur once a year, but then what they do is they include it here as a monthly expense. Or they might think of something and they'll include it in here, but they never ever incur that specific expense. It is therefore very important that when you complete this specific section of the application form, you should ensure that it makes logical sense and it is truthful. The reason why I'm saying so is that once this matter goes to court and there is a dispute, the other party disputes certain expenditure, you will obviously now have to explain how you came about those amounts. And at the same time, when you sign this document, you sign it as an affidavit confirming the contents thereof, swearing to the contents as being true and correct. So be very wary, have a few drafts, pull up an Excel sheet, put in the numbers so that it makes sense. So in this specific case, I stipulated that savings are 200 Rand, net income is 5,000, total income 5,000. There might be other expenditures as well. Remember, this is fictitious. What happened there? Then we go further on this form, start completing it. We look at items, for example, lodging. So here we have 5,000, 4,000 for groceries, and then various other household expenditures as well. Completed. It takes some time. It took me some time to type those specific numbers in, so I'll leave this to you. But complete it and make sure it makes sense. Garden service, domestic worker, clothing, and so on. All these are relevant expenditure. But let's get to the bottom of this. And before I get to that, you see medical expenses, insurance, pocket money, holiday. There might be certain expenditure that you may have or incur monthly that's not on this list. What I advise people to do is maybe either scratch out something here, scratch out for argument's sake. Let's say pets, because many people have pets. But let's say alarm system, and maybe write something else over there. Whatever you can write in over there, and put in an amount. There is also the other section regarding other not specified. However, play around with this form. It might just make logical sense. What you can potentially do is, if you are good at it, maybe on the computer, blank it out to be white and type something different in there. But the form must be neat and it must make logical sense at the end of the day. What we have concluded, we concluded that the client or the person who completed this form, her expenditures for the month is 5,000 Rand per month. For the children, 5,500 per month for her and 5,000 for the kids. And the total expenditures of the household is 10,500 Rand per month. Once we go to the top again and we see what is her income is 5,000 Rand per month. Okay. So she's obviously struggling here and her expenses for herself is 5,500. So there's obviously a challenge here. Does it make sense? I would say maybe not, because if you are earning 5,000, how can your personal expenditure be 5,500? That's where it's important for you to make sure that things make sense at the end of the day. It should most probably be but less than 5,500 per month. But the children, that's something else. If you're saying the children cost 5,000 per month, the father has an obligation to maintain her, the mother, because she's claiming that as well. They are married to each other, and to also minor kids. We do not know what the father earns. Maybe the mother does know that. But in this specific scenario, I would most probably argue that her claim for herself should most probably be the amount of 500 Rand per month, because that is what she's under for herself, and be 5,000 and the full 5,000 Rand per month for the minor kids. Now, following that specific example, her 5,000 Rand per month which she earns, she can use it for herself, and she'll get an additional 500 Rand from the father, and the father will be paying the 5,000 Rand towards the minor children. But each case is totally different. Because remember, her 5,500 Rand she has here are all her expenses for the month. That's very important to note. The scenario might be totally different. If the scenario was like this, let's say for argument's sake, The kids cost 5,000 per month, but her personal expenses were most probably, let's say, 3,000 per month. That means she has 2,000 rand available every month, and she must use part of that 2,000 rand towards the kids' expenses. But let's say she uses 1,000 rand towards the kids' expenses. Then obviously the claim against the father would be 4,000. It all depends on the circumstances. But the father might argue, no, you should pay 2,000. But that argument will work if the father does not have much money to pay. But if the father, for argument's sake, his earning capacity is, let's say, 50,000 rand per month, he earns 10 times what the mother earns. So even if he pays a maintenance of 5,000 rand per month, which a mother claims, he still has, let's say, for argument's sake, his expenses are 10,000, he might still have 35,000 rand left per month. So is it fair to say that the mother must use her last money, all her money for herself and for the kids, and the father only uses a portion of his money towards the minor children and also towards his wife, and he still has savings left at the end of the day? Would it not be fair, my apologies, would it not be fair if the mother also has something available in the month? So these are points which you can argue and debate in front of the maintenance officer and in the maintenance court. And then the court will obviously make a decision as to what's fair under the circumstances. Therefore, it's very important that you properly and correctly complete the specific maintenance application form. Let's go back to the resources. Yes, you can Google it. I think you type in maintenance application form A, that's form A over there, and you will find the specific form. Just to conclude and to summarize, you download the form, you complete the form as best you can, you make sure that you have proper amounts in over here. I see our client here wanted 3,500 rand for the kids, but obviously the kids cost 5,000 rand per month. Maybe in her scenario, she says, I have some money available towards the minor children at the end of the month. But remember, this is a fictitious example, but follow the principles which I've mentioned. Now that you have completed the specific form, what do you have to do next? My advice to you is get some supporting documentation to support these specific amounts and these specific figures and your specific claim. Find out which maintenance court you fall under. It will usually be at the it will usually be at the magistrate's court closest to you. You can also go to the magistrate's court where you work. So that's also possible. But if you do not know where to go to, please go to the police station and they would know where to advise you to go. Go with the documentation, go to the maintenance court and ask the maintenance officer, is everything fine? What should you add to it? Whatever the case may be. The maintenance officer will then advise you what else is required, but hopefully nothing else is required. What I forgot to mention to you is this document must go to the police station or to a commissioner of oaths where you have to sign it. Very important, you have to do that. And remember, you are confirming under oath. I swear the contents of this declaration is true. So remember, this is a affidavit. So therefore, under these specific sections, make sure everything's correct. Okay, let's get back to where I ended earlier. You take the documentation, this document, this affidavit to the maintenance court. Hopefully there are no changes to be made. If there are, you might have to refill it and recommission it. They will then inform both you and the other party. And in this specific example, the other party is Mr. Yes, Mark Wellington from 2 Cape Road, Cape Town, and they will inform Mr. Wellington about the maintenance complaint laid by the complainant. You can see here, complainant. Oops, wrong section over there, complainant, and he is the defendant. And they will inform him about that, and obviously they will inform him to please bring with his financials, his income, and his expenditure. If I'm correct, they still do it for the last 3 months. And then you will have a maintenance inquiry before a maintenance officer. The maintenance officer will try to resolve matters, see what documents are outstanding, maybe try to come to some type of a resolution on this matter. If it cannot be resolved, The maintenance officer might postpone this matter for further documentation, for an investigation by a maintenance investigator. That's also very interesting, where the maintenance investigator might dig around your bank statements, credit checks, and so on. And alternatively, the maintenance officer might say this matter should now go to a maintenance trial in front of a magistrate. Usually, before they do that, they ask the parties, do you want legal representation? And if you want legal representation, the matter might be postponed for that purposes. And once that is done, and the parties all have presented all the documentation and the matter is ready to proceed for trial, the magistrate will now have to deal with this matter. Trial is quite simple. The complainant, in this case, Kate Wellington, will present her income expenditures, what she wants for the kids, what she wants for herself, why she wants it, supporting documentation, and so on. Mr. Mark Wellington might cross-examine her, ask her questions, and dispute certain expenditure, whatever the case may be. And then Mr. Wellington will have to come onto the witness stand and he'll have to present how much his income is, his expenditure, and so on. Remember, it's an inquiry, and then Mrs. Wellington might ask him a few questions and so on. At the end of the entire exercise, the court will have relevant information before it to determine what is a reasonable amount of maintenance, which Mr. Mark Wellington will have to pay Kate Wellington towards maintenance for herself or the minor children. I hope I explained to you in at least a small amount of time how to complete this form. Please download this form if you are applying for child maintenance and go to the maintenance court as soon as possible. Best wishes.